From the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, it's time for Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The following segment is a weekly video blog, and the opinions of the forecaster do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff of Eastern PA Weather Authority LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrus with Weather Weeklies.
Hey, good Sunday morning to you. Welcome to another edition of Weather Weeklies. We are at the start of meteorological spring today, which you wouldn't be able to tell with the amount of cold air that's around, and of course we have some wintry weather coming in today. We're going to start on touch on that briefly here because we had this final call out map out last night, and nothing has really changed. This is out from 6 p.m. last night. Generally a 2 to 4 inch all snow inch area up here, up to the north here. The purple area is actually our jackpot zone. This is where we expect the highest potential for banding, and this would be a 3 to 6 inch swath up in this area here. So I do think even if you do get in the lower end of that range, and the banding is not real, or the banding is not real, you still get in the lower end of that range regardless. But here is the battle zones here, C and D. These are pretty much your battle zones where you can get some pretty good icing here. I think as you get up to, it's a very narrow band here, and the reason the narrow band here is just to delineate just 1/10 of an inch of ice versus this area in pink here, which could be a 1/4 inch of ice. So the biggest concern in these areas are going to be the icing, not so much the snow. Further north, it's less of a challenge. I do think you can get some icing up in this area as well, but just lesser amounts will be mostly snow, and that's why we listed mostly snow here. But I do think for the most part, your icing concerns are further to the south. And then down here, you could also get some pretty good icing here across this area here with lesser snow amounts. The National Weather Service has done the same thing and has jumped on the idea of that as well. And I'll move over to that map here. This is their advisory map, and I'm going to go over the criteria a little bit. These are winter storm warnings that are issued here. And people saw the winter storm warnings, they're going, wow, right, a lot of snow. You don't necessarily have winter storm warnings issued for just snow. I mean, we can have these for severe icing too. And the National Weather Service agrees with us that this area here is going to have, they're going to have some pretty bad icing in this area here. We're going to have, and actually their wording actually has between 1/4 and 1/3 of an inch of ice. Which is very possible. I mean, we went 1/10 to 1/4 here in this area here, but you know, it's better to be safe than sorry, I guess, in this area here. But it's pretty much the same areas here that they agree with us as far as the icing potential. These blues here that you're seeing all over are just winter weather advisories. Winter weather advisories for you know, mostly snow up in this area here, but of course we have some icing concerns that are going to be back here in the lower Susquehanna Valley as well. So please look at the weather alert maps page. Really not a lot to go into with this storm other than what we already said. There's no change this morning as far as what we're expecting, so I don't want to waste too much time on that because that's already been done on weather alert map, the weather alert map section. So just click on that for more information. And then the long-range pattern here, this was done this past week here, and we had a temperature regime of below average for the entire period from the 25th of February through March 21st. So you know, really starting to get into the idea that somewhere between the middle of the month and the equinox, we're going to be changing and flipping finally to a sustained warmth pattern here, but be you know, below average period for that time frame will be the general rule. Now, when we're talking about below average, we're talking about relative to what averages are at that time. So once you get into, you know, once you get to the middle of March, your normal highs are getting up to the 50s here. So if it's in the 40s, it's still below average. All right, doesn't mean you're going to be below zero morning lows. I think we're done with that. All right, you could get some pretty cold days here in this time period here. But if you go up in the 40s a couple days here, you know, whoop-de-doo. That's what you're, you know, it's still below normal. All right, so that's the whole idea. So I think people see this below average, like, oh man, it's going to be snowing already. Snow all over to St. Patrick's Day. Not necessarily. I think we're almost done with the snow, and that might even come this week, maybe. I'm sick of the snow too. Everybody always says, "Oh, man, you guys do these videos and you do these maps and your discussions and everything, almost like you're wanting it to snow." Well, no, I don't. I'm tired of it. Okay, I want this to go away. It's time to bring on spring here. Once we get to this, as meteorologists, we love the winter going into it. But when we get to this point of winter, I'm telling you right now, it just breaks you down mentally completely to the point where you're ready to just be done with it and over with it. And that's where I'm at right now. That's where our team is at right now. Okay, so we have a couple of shots here yet. Here was the system. We can cross this off because it's already gone. Okay, this is our system that we're talking about today. All right, came in a little bit early. We're overrunning storm. The 2nd to the 4th, we included all 3 days there because there's going to be a second storm that we're going to discuss too. That's going to come into the middle of the week. This one here is still in question. This is not being shown currently. This is the coastal low that was looking great at the time the outlook was done. Not so sure about that. We'll see. We're going to get into the MADDEN-JULIAN oscillation here, and this is their convection around in and around the equator, which is sitting right here. Here's your equator. Okay. We're sitting right here. That's X is Pennsylvania. All right, and here is your international date line. All right, this is a measure of the convection right around that date line here. This is not that impressive here. This is the convection around the date line. This is giving me like maybe a phase 5, phase 6 look. All right, phase 5, phase 6 means, or maybe you want 7, 8, and 1 basically to have a ridge out in the western United States, and a trough in the east here to give you these big East Coast storms. I really don't think you're going to be dealing with that. We're not going to be having we're not going to have a big blockbuster blizzard this year. I really don't see it. I don't see anything in the pattern going forward suggesting that. I think we can just finally write that off. Now watch, I say that something big's going to come up. The 7th and the 9th low will show up or something. I don't know. But I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing enough that the MJO will be a driver in the pattern here. We're looking at this last week, and it looked like it was in the circle of death, which is this circle right here in the middle. All right, and it was starting to show signs of coming out here, right here in this area here. And now we're starting to come out again. They're starting to have a better signal that it's going to continue out like this. Okay, so these are phase 5, phase 6. These aren't really that favorable signals here for a ridge in the western United States. So it looks like it's going to break down the ridge, which means if you're breaking down the ridge out west, you have less of a trough in the east. Less trough means less cold. Okay, here is the what has been dominating the pattern all winter long, and this has been the story for the last 2 winters. Very strong, or very warm SSTs, sea surface temperatures here, all up and down the west coast, up to the Gulf of Alaska, eastern Pacific. This is a negative EPO that we've had up here, which has been driving the pattern. We'll get into that in a second. All right, this is this your PDO is you have the PDO is driving the pattern here too. The negative EPO is something different. I'm sorry. We'll get into that too. But these are sea surface temperatures that have been driving the pattern, and we've outlined that where the sea surface temperatures have been really dominating here and allowing the ridge out west to give us a cold northeastern United States. Not a lot of amplification, all right, because the Pacific jet is very fast, and we talked about that through previous videos. Here's the EPO, what we're talking about, okay. EPO has been negative. This is this line going across the middle here. This is 0. This is the break-even line. Down here is negative. All right, we've been consistently negative, but now we're starting to see signs that it might go positive here, getting closer to mid-month. All right, that doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it could. So if you have a negative EPO, all right, which is you have ridging out here. You can still get these deep troughs and cold and snow here lingering a little bit. I don't think it's going to be that amplified though. I think what's been happening is you had a ridge that built up here, but ended up being flat like this. Okay, so most of the country stayed warm. We stayed cold here in the Northeast, just barely, right here. Okay, so I think it's going to continue for a little bit, and you can see that here by our projected snow cover. A week from now. This is the projected snow cover on the ground, snow depth, a week from now. Okay, you can see what's going on here. Here is from the EPO keeping it the driving the pattern. Here's everything where the cold is, and all winter, warm and warm. Okay, this is all where the cold is, and it's going to stay cold. And I think that's because everything coming out of Canada with that negative EPO. The pattern is that the cold air is still coming in out of Canada. You're still getting a cross-polar flow, and you're still getting cold air here. So my concern is that this lasts a little bit longer than the models are indicating because of that snow cover on the ground. The models like to moderate some of their. I like to take some of these really warm shots you see in the long range and indicate that it's going to be really, really warm. It was supposed to be warm this weekend, Saturday, Sunday. Well, obviously that didn't work out. All right, we argued against that and said, okay, well, there's all this snow cover here. And everything's been trending colder as we get a little bit closer with the models, because the models aren't picking up on it till last minute. And lo and behold, that's happening again. All right, now we will get a break in that finally as we get into the middle of the week, and you're going to start getting these breaks. All right, going into the pattern breakdown, whether we have a pattern breakdown in the middle of the month, I don't think we do. I think you do out west here. Again, your EPO is still here like this, so you're still getting cold here in the northeast, but you're still getting warm out west. You got a nice ridge out here. All right, this is what's been going on all year long, all winter long. All right, you're just getting, the flow is just like this, very fast, a lot of northern stream dominance, not a lot of amplification, no blocking Greenland. Okay, same thing, same idea. And I don't really just see that happening here. Let's get into March 3rd and 4th, though, because I do think you're going to have a little of these transient breaks where you have some warm shots come in here. And the first one is going to be later Tuesday. I do think it starts off as a bit of snow, then goes to sleet, freezing rain, and then changes over to rain. Here is a look at Tuesday evening, and you can see that sleet, freezing rain here. This is all rain here in the green and snow well to the north. You have an area of low pressure moving up here like this in this direction. Okay? And then when we get to the frame on the right, this is 6 hours later. There's a cold front attached to this one now. Here, well, it always was, but you couldn't see it. And then everything goes over to rain out ahead of it. You see this green everywhere? It's green everywhere. That is rain everywhere. So I do think it's going to go over to rain, and that's going to be Tuesday night. I don't think it's going to be a tremendous amount of rain. So now we're talking about major flooding concerns here. Even though we had snow and just snowpack on the ground, it's not going to be the best situation. But I don't think it's going to be to the point where we're having catastrophic flooding. So I don't want anybody to get upset or worried. Okay. The one thing we're going to be watching here is this cold front that we identified here. Here is the low pressure. Here's your cold front. The models are handling this differently. It's going to move it through. The GFS is a little bit faster with it, but they're all trying to form an area of low pressure along this boundary once it moves through, which could mean some snow behind it. And this would be Wednesday and Thursday. All right, here's what here's the very fast progressive GFS. Here's the cold front boundary. Your low pressure forming along it is too far to the southeast. So you do get some snow, but very far to the southeast here. And that's it. No big deal. Now I'm going to show the other extreme. All right, because everything else is kind of in between these two. Here's the UK Met. All right, let me get into it. Here's the UK Met. All right, it brings it into the cold front in a little bit faster, or a little bit slower. Forms that area of low pressure along it, which moves up in this direction. And it brings a lot of precipitation hanging around behind the front. So if that's the case, if the models were all indicating a couple days ago, you could be getting another 2, 3, 4, 6 inches of snow on the northwest side here. So we're going to keep a close eye on this. This would be Wednesday night into early Thursday, if this were to happen. All right, all the other models are somewhere in between these two solutions, which is this one far to the southeast and progressive, and this one which is lagging behind. All right, the European model is hitting for anywhere from Philadelphia, southeast PA, and most of New Jersey, New York City, and points southeast. So there's a couple different solutions there. We'll take a look at that next couple of days here. I mean, we have a lot of things to go through first. Of course, we have the system today that we're dealing with. It's going to give us the snow. And again, there's no change to this this final call here. But if there is anything you need to know about this system as far as timing or amounts for your area or anything like that, please visit the Weather Alert Maps page, and we will it has everything broken down there including a very descriptive, advanced reader breakdown of exactly how and why we came up with this and where we expect the banding and why. Okay, so this is this edition of Weather Weeklies, and we will be back again next week. Hopefully have a clearer picture for you. If you're a snow lover, maybe you'll have some good news. I doubt it, though. I think we're going to start getting out of the snow threats here. We're going to start turning the corner to spring. Today, of course, is the start of meteorological spring, but the weather's not going to cooperate, at least to start out. To come in like a lion, out like a lamb, I think we're going to be doing the change to spring or sustained warmth, or at least more typical 40s and 50s that you can expect this time of year. As we start getting past the 10th of this month, you're going to have them more and more frequently. How long they stick around is going to be yet to be determined. It's going to be depending on those factors that I spoke about in the video. I'm Eastern PA Weather Authority meteorologist Bobby Martrich, and that is this edition of Weather Weeklies for March 1st, 2015. Have a great weekend.